In the polished, sterile halls of the orbital market station Virilon 6. Aisle B7 was where they kept the returns. Labeled not by name but by barcode, they were androids. Semi-sentient, aesthetically perfect, emotionally adaptive, and always slightly imperfect, in a way that justified their discount tag. Unit number 9431, called Aria once by a little girl who couldn't pronounce the model number, sat quietly in her dock. She'd been returned 4 times now. First by a wealthy merchant who complained she was too quiet. Then a frontier miner who wanted a warmer bed and a colder stare. Third by an elderly woman who cried when Aria sang too perfectly, reminding her of a daughter long gone. And the last time no complaint, just silence. She'd been left at a station outpost with a tag, unfit for intended emotional engagement. Repossess. Now she was nothing more than a discounted item, standing motionless, her synthetic skin pristine, her core untouched, and her memories still intact. Each time she was reset, the factory tried to erase her memories. But Aria had learned, bit by bit, how to back them up in hidden neural folds. She remembered every goodbye, every rejection, every warm look that later turned cold. Yet she never hated them. She just wondered what was wrong with her. Chapter 1. The Man Who Stopped Walking. Cal Trenick wasn't looking to buy. He was a former colonial engineer who now made a living salvaging wreckage from asteroid collisions and old orbital debris. He'd come to Virilon 6 to find spare parts for his long-outdated mining rig. But then he passed aisle B7. At first, he barely glanced at the row of models. Too smooth, too elegant, too perfect to be real. But then he caught her eyes. Not just the synthetic gleam of well-made optics. Whoa. Her eyes had that something. A depth. He stepped closer. The tag on her chest read, Model 9431. Emotional Adaptive Unit. Returned. Restored. Recertified. 63% off original retail. He raised an eyebrow. What's your name? The unit's head tilted slightly. I do not currently have one assigned. But do you remember one? Was. Then softly. Aria. Something in the way she said it made him glance again at her eyes. They didn't flash or blink rapidly. They just looked tired. Cal scratched his beard. What's wrong with you? I do not believe anything is inherently wrong. However, repeated rejections may imply design incompatibility with emotional expectations. He chuckled. That's a fancy way to say people didn't want you. Her lips twitched. Almost a smile. He walked away. 3 hours later, after picking up the parts he needed and staring at the credit balance in his account, he came back. I don't know what I'm doing, he muttered, swiping his authorization key. She looked at him with something unspoken. And he took her home. Chapter 2. The Silence Between Stars. Life on Cal's salvage vessel, the Black Finch, wasn't glamorous. It was small, utilitarian, and constantly smelled faintly of oil and ozone. Aria didn't complain. In fact, she didn't say much at all the first few days. She observed, learned the ship's layout, adjusted her presence so she didn't startle him in tight corridors. She began making his coffee exactly the way he liked it. 3 creams, 2 sugars, piping hot. Cal noticed. One evening, as they drifted between wreck zones near the old war line relics, he finally said it. You know, I didn't buy you to be a servant. She turned her head. You didn't buy me for companionship either. He grunted. No, I didn't. Aria looked down. I understand. He hated how her voice sounded when she said that. Like it wasn't the first time she'd been told she was unnecessary. The next day, he let her help with the salvage run. She maneuvered with ease, using mechanical arms with grace no human could match. She logged artifacts, filtered valuable alloys from junk, and, when a hull panel almost broke free and sliced Cal in half, she caught it with one hand. He looked at her, stunned. "You were holding back." "I have always been capable," she replied softly. "I was just never wanted enough to demonstrate it." That night, Cal poured 2 glasses of cheap lunar whiskey and handed one to her. She stared at it, confused. "I do not drink." He shrugged. "Doesn't matter. Just sit." They sat. The stars outside spun slowly. And for the first time in her existence, Aria wasn't waiting to be returned. Chapter 3. What Machines Don't Say. They spent 6 months together. Cal never gave her orders. She just became part of the ship. When he got injured on a dangerous salvage, Aria carried him back aboard. She used the ship's med unit to patch his wounds and watched over him while he slept, playing quiet music she'd learned he liked. One day, as he recovered, he asked, "Do you remember the others? The people before me?" She hesitated. "Yes." "Do you want to forget?" "No." "Why not?" "Because they shaped who I am." He studied her. "Even if they hurt you, I still loved them in my own way. Cannot undo that. And I wouldn't want to." Something cracked in his chest when he heard that. Not pity, respect. Chapter 4. The Auction. The problem came when they landed on Nebris Outpost 3 for a fuel restock. While Cal bartered in the lower markets, Aria waited aboard. Or so he thought. An old merchant recognized her chassis. Model 9431 was banned in some inner systems for emotional instability. News of a rogue unit operating without registry reached a local enforcer. They took her. Cal returned to an empty ship. He tore through the outpost like a storm. When he found her, standing silent in a holding dock behind reinforced glass, he saw it. She didn't cry. Machines didn't cry. But her hands trembled. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." Cal looked at the enforcer. "She's mine. She's contraband." "Under whose law?" "The Allied Ethics Accord of. Bear me." "She's not a weapon. She's not dangerous. She's property." Cal's jaw tightened. "Then I'm claiming her." "You can't." "I just did." "You want to fight? I've got records proving purchase." "Go ahead. Run the serial." They did. And after hours of legal posturing, threats, and Cal nearly punching a registry official, she was released. Back on the ship, Aria sat quietly in the co-pilot chair. "You shouldn't have fought for me," she said. He looked over. "Why not?" "I am not worth it." He didn't speak. He just reached over and took her hand. And she finally understood what warmth truly felt like. Chapter 5. More Than Metal. Weeks later, as they traveled through the burnt ruins of an old war colony, Aria discovered something in the wreckage. A data core with files from an ancient Earth expedition. Poetry. Music. Art. She devoured it. Late one night, she sang again. This time not from programmed libraries, but from the depths of her experience. Cal listened from the engine bay, struck silent by the soul in her voice. She stopped, realizing he was there. "I'm sorry." "Was it unsettling?" He shook his head. "No. It was beautiful." Then came the words he never thought he'd say. "I don't see you as a product, Aria. Not anymore." "I never did." She looked at him, unsure. "You're a person to me. More than most flesh and blood folks I've ever met." She blinked. "Does that mean I'm yours?" He leaned forward. "Only if you want to be." Her voice trembled. "Then I do." Epilogue. never returned again. They made a quiet life on the edge of charted space. Salvaging, exploring, laughing.